Today we are going to be talking about marketing, and we're going to be talking specifically about inbound and outbound marketing, how they're different, and how you can blend them together to create a really effective strategy that works really well in the recruiting industry. So if you're kind of waking up in the morning right now, feeling the market transitioning, you're looking at your calendar, you feel like your pipeline isn't where you want it to be, then stick around for this training. It's definitely going to, solve some problems for you. Okay, if you're really still kind of head down, busy filling roles, but you kind of have that little voice in the back of your head that's telling you that you might want to start picking up your business development, you'll get a lot out of this training. But ultimately, if you don't have a system in place to consistently get you new clients, then you're going to find a tremendous amount of value with what I'm about to lay out for you here. Okay, so let's dive in. Let's get into the fun meat and potatoes of this whole thing. So the difference between inbound and outbound marketing. So outbound marketing is going to be cold calling, cold emailing, cold LinkedIn messaging. It's actually going to include radio, TV advertisements, billboards, etc. And even trade show events are going to be considered outbound marketing efforts. Okay, and if you want to kind of think about it, outbound marketing in general, and none of this is really brain science, is you're interrupting your prospect. Okay, I think some of the things that are positive about outbound marketing is we can reach a lot of people. We can be targeted with who we're reaching potentially. And it only takes one, right? When we're doing outbound, hey, if we just happen to hit a person on a day that they have an open position, we can have some job orders or some new recs that are just kind of handed to us on a platter just by simply doing some outbound activities. The negative is there's actually a lot of dead wasted time and energy, effort across the board. Those of you that are still, doing that pounding of the phone 50 to 100 a day, that's just not as effective as it used to be. And, we also want to be looking at, are we using our time efficiently, right? The other thing with outbound activities is they're pretty expensive, right? Whether you're the firm owner or if you have a business development person, if you're paying somebody to make a bunch of outbound calls, it's expensive and it's costly, and the ROI is not something that's trending upwards. It's definitely trending downward, right? But there's a lot of ways that you can kind of use your outbound efforts in a more modern approach, which we'll lay out here today, that will increase the results. Okay. Now, inbound marketing is going to focus a lot on, attracting clients, attracting people. So this is where we have content marketing, social media marketing, blogs, ebooks, webinars. Those are going to all fall into the inbound, marketing category. The cool thing about inbound marketing, and I feel like it's a superior way to go. And what we're going to talk about today really is going to be how we take our outbound efforts to feed our inbound efforts. Okay. And a couple of reasons why I feel like inbound is better is one, it's really geared for a specific prospect. You're viewing, rather than reaching out to a company, you're reaching out to an individual. You're trying to build an individual relationship. And I just think with the way society is going, that's what people are after more now, right? Is genuine, peer-to-peer human connection. So, definitely some of the things that, one of the positives of inbound marketing is you're way more leveraged. Your efforts have a longer shelf life. So if I create, for example, let's just talk about this video here, right? This video will have a couple people on here live with me, but this video will also hit the LinkedIn algorithm. It'll probably work for me for, I don't know, the next 3 to 5 days. And anybody that goes to my LinkedIn channel could access it at any time, whether it's a year from now, right? So that's the power of content marketing, is once we, and inbound marketing is once we kind of get that type of effort out there, then it works on its own for us. We don't have to manually keep pumping it, right? It'll work for us. So that's where the leverage comes in. And so ultimately that's going to save you time and money, right? So, when you go out and you create content, if I post it, then I'm not taking the same amount of time to make a bunch of outbound calls, if we're comparing those two different things. Ultimately, what I like about it though, is it really allows you to build a relationship with your prospect online before they even ever interact with you. So right now we're building a relationship. It's kind of one way where you guys are getting to know me, what my marketing efforts are, what my thoughts are. So you're building a relationship with me. Some of you like me, some of you don't, right? So that's the benefit of content marketing. Is it actually starts the relationship building process prior to both party being fully engaged. But the end result of when you get an inbound prospect is it's a more qualified lead. So rather than trying to pound the phones and break down doors and break into things and ultimately get somebody who's on the phone with you that's resistant, it's a complete game changer because your calendar is a lot cleaner and the people that are getting on the phone with you actually want to be on the phone with you. So that allows you to then get a more qualified prospect and client overall, but that allows you to kind of do some qualifying yourself. It allows you to vet the client out. Hey, is this somebody that I would want to work with? It allows you to be in control of the sales process, which then when you're in control of the sales process, you have a better opportunity to sell exclusives, engaged, retain type of opportunities because you are in control, where a lot of the outbound efforts, we're just kind of left to, take what they'll give us. Right. And so, some of the negatives around, just a complete pure inbound strategy is, in this industry, in the recruiting industry, you can't be sitting on your hands. You got to be aggressive. And so if it's purely, inbound, not saying it won't work, but it's going to take a little bit longer. And that's one of the other challenges is inbound's not a snap of the finger, right? You have to get your market and your audience a chance to actually know that you exist, find value in what you do. And before they ultimately reach out and you attract them to you. Now that process can take 15 days, it can take 6 months, just depends on the person, the market, and everything. A lot of variables there. But when you combine the outbound, it actually injects and makes this whole process go faster. So that's what we're going to kind of transition into now, is really blending these two efforts. And I'll give you a couple examples of exactly how you can do that. So the first effort we're going to talk about is LinkedIn. Okay. So the first thing that I can do is just simply use LinkedIn, and my outbound effort would be to connect with all the potential prospects in my market. So in your case, it's going to be connecting with hiring decision makers, potential candidates, and doing this on a daily basis. Okay, that is your outbound effort. You're disrupting, again, you're interrupting their day. You're saying, hey, come join and be a part of my network. That has to be a part of your daily game plan for a recruiter or recruiting agency, executive search firm, doesn't matter. If that's not a part of your daily game plan, take that and start doing that today. And the reason being is this isn't so much about recruiting, this is about marketing. And one of the things that I think people may not be thinking about is that when you're growing your network, you're actually building your own audience. Okay. And so where this inbound, outbound connect here is that by building my audience and growing my network, now when I share my content, now I've got an audience that's pre-built, ready to consume my audience. So I'm using my outbound effort to grow an audience to drive traffic to my content marketing that I would do on my LinkedIn feed. So that's the first most basic way that you can combine these efforts, right? It's just simply focus on growing your network every single day, turning those connections into followers, into people that start to consume and engage with your content. Now, not everybody's hanging out on the LinkedIn feed as much as we are. Okay. So the next strategy, and this can be done via LinkedIn or via email. Okay. But if you're doing outbound, cold messages on LinkedIn, please don't pitch. Or if you're doing cold emails, some can get away more with a pitch there. But the reality of it is like these transactional approaches, one, they usually don't deliver the best prospects for you. Two, your prospects don't really like them anymore. So one of the ways that we've kind of taken that same aggressive approach, hey, I don't want to be sitting on my hands. I want to go be aggressive. I try to disrupt my market, let them know that I exist, but I also don't want to try to be transactional and salesy. So what we'll do to combine this inbound and outbound is I'll reach out to my prospect, and rather than try to book a call or schedule a call with them, I will add them or ask them if they want a piece of value. Okay, so what this might look like is somebody's in your LinkedIn network, you reach out to them, rather than trying to get on a phone call with them, you'll drive them to a piece of content. For example, like a hiring survey. We're having a lot of success with hiring surveys right now. Okay. And so you might send a message, hey, John, we're doing a little bit of research on some marketing trend or some hiring trends. If I sent you over a 1-minute survey, would you take a second and fill it out? So by using that outbound effort to drive that message, then you will have prospects respond back with, yeah, send that over. I'd happily take that. That's when it transitions to becoming inbound. Okay. And it's really, really an effective effort. Now, just to kind of go on a little sidebar here is like, you got to give your prospects a little bit of credit, especially if you've got your LinkedIn profile dialed in. You don't need to ask for business all the time. People are smart enough to do a little bit of research on their own. And the reason I bring this up is because using this strategy, last week, for example, one of the clients in my program was using the exact approach I just said, sending out a survey. And as he sent out the survey, he had plenty of people responding, wanting the survey. One person just picked up the phone and said, hey, Larry, I've got 5 open positions for you to work right now. Are you interested? So simply by just touching my prospect and making sure that I'm top of mind, I can pick up orders. I didn't even ask for business. He asked if you wanted to be a part of the survey, right? So that's the message I'm trying to get home there is you don't have to pitch and sell and try to convince people to get on the phone for them to reach out to you. Just by simply adding value, you're now creating inbound phone calls. That guy called Larry from his outbound effort. Okay. So the reason why, again, we go with value is because most of your prospects aren't going to respond to aggressive messaging. That's because they see it every day. And if you haven't caught on to that, if you haven't caught on to like the quick trying to make a buck, let me get on your phone. Everybody's doing it. So if you see everybody going right, hang a left, right? And this is the way you hang a left. Instead of trying to go pitch to sell a phone call, you're going to pitch and try to add value. Once they get in and they take that survey, for example, now they're a part of your marketing list, and now you have more control to be able to stay top of mind to that individual. Okay. Now, the third way would be a lot of people are still, going to events, trade shows, and things like that. So, when you're going to an event trade show, what I'd recommend is trying to get a hold of, if you can, the attendees list, the exhibitor list, the vendor list, and really start to make relationships with people prior to. And you can do that via email, via LinkedIn. You could do it via phone if you wanted to. And it's a very, non-invasive way to, interact with your audience. Hey, I'm going to be at XYZ show. Are you going to be there too? Just wanted to check in, and then we start to, build some of that dialogue, right? Now you can do the same thing after the event, but while you're at the event is where you have a huge opportunity to take that, me being at the event, outbound, I'm going to meet some people, disrupt, right? And turn that into inbound. So that's where before the event, I want to have kind of a content resource that I can give away at that event, whether I'm in a booth as a vendor and I've got a QR code that they can scan to grab that resource, or if I'm just simply walking, the trade show or the event or the conference, having a way to have conversations with people, but then they keep that conversation going by, hey, John, you know what? Actually, I just completed a guide that might solve some of the challenges we just got through in this discussion. If you give me your email, I'll fire that thing right over to you when, once we get back. Boom, now I've got inbound leads and I can control the process again, right? So when you're doing these events, think about ways that you can, again, connect, get attention to the audience before you go, engage with the audience with a resource while you're there, and then continue to follow up with that audience after the fact. The next thing that, I'm going to recommend is actually with your follow-up. Okay. So whether you're on the phone with a client, whether you're on the phone with a candidate, a great way to continue this effort, and it's not really inbound, outbound, but it's just leveraging your content at this point, is to follow up with more value add, right? Most people are just talking about talent. And look, at the end of the day, that's what your client wants most. But if I'm competing and somebody can bring talent, the other person can bring talent, and your hiring manager believes in both of you, but you've got something that shows you're a little bit more dedicated, proves your value a little bit more, like a content resource, so it's going to help you win. It's going to help you push over the top. Again, not only that is my content resources should explain my process and methodologies so that when I get that prospect on the phone, they're more qualified. Okay. If you guys have any questions about this, go ahead in the comments there, and I'll try to answer anything live here with you guys. So, every prospect, client or candidate, you can build a resource for after they get off the phone with you, if they're not going to move forward right away, to create a better experience. So one of the things that I will commonly do is actually follow up with a video recording. So I'll go to their LinkedIn profile, I'll thank them for the call, record the video, send them something over, and then based off of our call, I'll probably send them over another nugget that's more of a value-based resource. That's really just, continuing the process and building that relationship and rapport there. Okay. Now, the last thing is, is basically with your inbound efforts, as you start getting people in your email database. Okay. And if you don't have an email database where, you're marketing to a small list of people. Okay. And this is, I think, where there's so much low hanging fruit in the recruiting industry. So many recruiters are used to just grabbing data from like Zoom Info or Loxo or whatever, whatever platform you're getting this data from, and then just putting people through drip campaigns. And I'm not telling you to stop doing that, but there's so much more gold in those prospects, your existing clients, your existing customers, the people that said, hey, not right now, but reach back out in Q4. Those people need to be onto a list where we're going to nurture that audience and add value to them. So if you're not doing that, there's a huge opportunity to do that. Now, the best softwares out there that do this with email allows us to do one of those, this one would actually change from, taking your inbound effort and driving it to outbound. So with that, what I'm saying here is, as people start engaging with your content, okay, as people start to engage with your content, then a good email software provider is going to be able to track that engagement. And so, for example, if I send out an email, for those of you that got onto this training today from the email I sent out this morning, once I go back into my email system, I could actually check and see who clicked to join the training, right? So where you could tie this in is, as you're doing content, you're seeing who's opening your emails, you're seeing who's clicking on your emails. You could then follow up with an outbound call, an outbound email, an outbound LinkedIn message, and reference what they clicked on, right? And now I've got a much more warm prospect. I'm not cold anymore, right? Hey, John, I noticed that you just read my, we're just on my training, talking about how to blend inbound and outbound marketing efforts. Boom, right? Like there's context. You were there. I saw you there. I saw you clicked. I saw you were interested. And that just creates for a much more frictionless outbound effort and outbound call. So, the Relevant Recruiter app that I'm rolling out and launching, that's one of the most powerful things about it, is that it has complete tracking. It'll tell you how much people are watching your videos, how much, what content they're opening, how much they're engaging with that content. And then it scores that individual based off of their activity. So, your hottest prospects are. We'll get into that later though. So, but that's the whole idea, is when I know and I can identify who is engaging with my inbound efforts, I can turn that and reach out and make that an outbound effort. Okay. And that's really the 5 different ways that you can make this inbound, outbound magic cohesive and blend. And when you do that right, it's just incredibly powerful, right? Because we can be ultra targeted with who we're going outbound to, if we're doing, account-based marketing, right? If we're going after our dream 100 set of clients, these are the clients I want to go after. Now I'm going to go reach out, add a resource to them. So I'm building credibility and value, getting their information so I can stay in contact. That's really, what this game is really going to be all about. And again, it's just about more qualified prospects coming your way. Now, regardless of the approach, regardless if it's inbound, outbound, a blend, it is crucial that building relationships is the core of each of those strategies. Okay. That's what I think inbound marketing is far superior, is that I can create content that builds that relationship. I can get somebody into my world and focus on building that relationship, rather than having to focus most of my energy and my effort into the grunt of breaking down and getting through that door. Okay. All outbound tactics should really just focus now, in my opinion, all your outbound tactics should focus on driving towards your inbound efforts. Even if you're making just straight cold calls, drive them to a resource or something. You probably have more value. Okay. Now, I'm not talking about from the candidate side of things. We're talking more BD here. Okay. Now, if you run a recruiting business, and again, you don't have a system in place to grow it and get consistent new opportunities with your clients, then we should talk. We're doing these types of systems. We're executing these types of things every single day in the Relevant Recruiter program. And the result is ultimately more warm phone calls, right? My clients see consistent warm phone calls every single month, and they don't have to worry about the stress of inconsistent revenue months, because we use the power of automation, the power of content marketing that works out there for us to help keep prospects coming to us when we might be focused a little bit more on filling these roles And that's going to eliminate those revenue gaps, right? Is we're always keeping a pipeline of people actively in our database, actively in front of that we can nurture. So if that's you, if you don't have a system in place right now, drop a comment below or send me a message on LinkedIn here, on LinkedIn or Facebook. Send me an email and let's set up a time to talk. And on this call, I'll just talk you through, see where you're at right now, see where what your focus are, what your goals are. You'll get extreme clarity on what action you need to take to, reach those goals from a marketing and business development perspective. And at the end of the call, hey, if there's a fit for us to work together, then we'll dive into that a little bit more. But these calls are 100% free. They're valuable. I do them every single week. And whether you're end up moving forward or not is not what it's about. It's about getting you clarity on the next steps that are going to take you to your business. So don't wait. Now's the time to take action, especially if you're busy. It's the best time to be able to do this. Leverage yourself, create power for yourself. Go ahead and into those comments, drop that below. But I hope you found value in this training here today. Thank you guys for being a part of my world, trusting me, and listening to me in my spiels here. This is Donnie Gupton. We will see you next week.